Dobro večer vam želim i dobrodošlicu na 4. internacionalni festival književnosti Bookstan. Divno vas je vidjeti u tolikom broju i zapravo to svake godine prepoznajemo kao podršku, jer bez posvećene publike i medija sve ovo što radimo ne bi imalo nikakvog smisla. Bookstan je, nije da se hvalimo, prepoznat kao festival koji je jako brzo izrastao, a zapravo rasta i uspjeha nema bez kontinuiteta. Bookstan je rezultat Bajbukovog kontinuiteta. Bajbuk, izdavačka kuća, ove godine obilježava 23 godine postojanja, a taj kontinuitet spominjem u tom kontekstu da često zaboravimo na temelje kada želimo uspjeh, a također bez institucionalne podrške kontinuitet nije moguć. Mi je na svu sreću imamo, možda ona nije preobimna, ali smo joj zahvalni na tome, ali isto tako smo zahvalni i nekim drugim ljudima, posebno recimo sretnoj okolnosti što su neki hemoni kad su krenuli od Galicije se zaustavili u Sarajevu, pa potom nažalost otišli u bijeli svijet i tamo jedan onaj najpoznatiji postao jedan od najuspješnijih svjetskih pisaca. Riječ je svakako o Aleksandru Saši Hemonu, suosnivaču Bookstana, našem prvom kuratoru i tvorcu No East, No West koncepta koji podrazumijeva da se odmičemo od svih onih identitetskih podjela, svih teritorijalnih i da u središte naše pažnje smjestimo čovjeka i njegovu priču. Zahvaljujući Saši Hemonu, mi smo dobili još jednog velikog festivalskog prijatelja koji će usput sutra imati svoju promociju knjige u okviru Bookstanovog predstavljanja novih Bajbukovih izdanja. Riječ je o Johnu Freemanu i s takvim kreditom smo mi krenuli u tu jednu avanturu koja traje sada već 4 godine i zahvaljujući čemu smo između ostalog nedavno u Sarajevu imali i Orhana Pamuka. Hvala vam još jednom što ste s nama i što nas podržavate, a ja ću sada zamoliti direktora izdavačke kuće Bajbuk i osnivača Bajbuka te osnivača internacionalnog festivala Bookstan, Damira Uzunovića, da mi se pridruži na sceni. Nije sam, tim bolje.
Dobro večer, dragi prijatelji. Prve godine je to bio Aleksandar Hemon, druge godine Hanif Kureši, treće godine Hitmak, ove godine Abdolah KADER u razgovoru sa Chris Keulemansom. Please have a seat. Please have a seat. Ovim programom otvoren je 4. međunarodni festival književnosti Bookstan. Hvala vam i uživajte.
Dobar večer, dame i gospodo. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is so good to see that Bookstan is getting bigger all the time and Damir's speeches are getting shorter all the time. Great combination. My name is Chris Keulemans. I'm so honored and happy to be back at Bookstan and to be back here at Obela, a meeting point, especially because I'm on stage with the great KADER ABDOLAH. He's a writer many of you know. I think he's one of the greatest writers around today. He writes stories about family, about love, about politics, religion, resistance, about poetry. And he writes all of this in the language of my country, the Netherlands, where he arrived 30 years ago. And one of the characters in his book writes in a letter home from Holland, he said, "Today I have changed the language in which I write, but I've always tried to keep the poetic spirit of our beautiful old language, of the Farsi language, a place in my stories." That is what KADER ABDOLAH has been doing over the past decades, book after book after book after book. 5 of these books have been published here in Bosnian. 2 of them are being republished today. Kuća i mama, So that is, I guess, my father's notebook? No? It's the house of the mosque? See, my Bosnian is still. Klinasto pismo, which is, of course, my father's notebook. These two books are like sister books. Together, they tell a lot of related stories about the past decades in the 20th century in Iran, and partly also about your own story. I just want to check before we hear from KADER ABDOLAH himself. Who has read his books? A strong minority, but not enough. Afterwards, KADER ABDOLAH will be here to sign his books, which means that you have to buy them first here in the hall. And I can assure you they will stay with you forever once you start reading them. KADER ABDOLAH. I think this is, we live in the same country, we don't live in the same city, we don't see each other very often. Fortunately, I get to read your books, I get to see you in the papers, on television. And you have visited Sarajevo now for the second time, I believe. 10 years ago for the first time, together with your wife, Sohila, who is also here. And now you're back. Could you give us a first impression of this city through your eyes?
Good evening. Yeah. You hear me? It is an emotional question, but I try to give an answer to it. I have, since I left my own country, since I escaped of my country, I have never been back, about 30 years. When I came for the first time in Sarajevo, I felt home. I felt really home. But it was 10 years ago when I came to Sarajevo, I saw the pain of the war. And I saw the wounded. They are very fresh. But today, I came yesterday night, and today I walked again through the streets. And everybody was happy. The man has become more handsome, and the women more beautiful than before. They show themselves. But when I was here 10 years ago, they couldn't show their beauty. But today I have seen many beauty of the city. Anyway, salam Sarajevo. Salam everybody this evening here. Thank you very much.
You know, I hate to break it to you, they're not always happy here, but when you're in town, yes.
This is maybe you cannot you cannot see, and even the people here cannot see. That is a energetic city, an energetic country, because they are busy to make a new civilization. They are busy to make a new culture. They are busy to make an own literature. And I see it. I see in their eyes, in their bodies. And 10 years ago, there was maybe 1 or 2 ice cream salons. But now everywhere, ice cream means happiness.
Yes, ice cream and great literature. 2 things for sure that are created here. But there's something else.
Something else.
I mean, I agree with you. I love this city deeply, deeply. Also because it is so clearly a city where the East and the West mingle, as is, it's no East, no West according to this festival.
Okay.
No sense to make difference between them. And you can feel that here in the old city, in the Basčaša, in the old bazaar. Have you walked around there?
I told you, when I came here, I felt home, and I have never been in a mosque in the past 30 years, and yesterday and today, I passed through the bazaar, and I saw the mosque, and I saw the people. They went there, and somebody to get some prayer, and other people sitting down, and the women walked through the mosque, and I went there, and I sit down in the mosque. I'm not a believer. My father was a believer, and I washed my hands, and I washed my feet, and I sat down and read a poem.
For yourself.
For myself, for the city. Because I felt it is East, it is West, but they are people. This human being. The ladies with short mini rocks and the believers there, and they were together. It is magic. Maybe you cannot see it, but I saw it. I saw the beauty of the city.
It is right there. And so you actually, for the first time in 50 years, you entered a mosque.
In 30 years, I went inside the mosque, and I asked, where is Mecca? This side. And for the first time in Sarajevo, I had done this before in homeland, in the house of my father, in the house of the mosque, as a boy of 15 years old. And why I did this?
Why?
Home. I felt home. And it was wonderful experience for me.
And then, which poem did you read?
This is wonderful. Can I? Yeah, maybe this is a Persian. This is old Persian old poem about the love. Everybody knows it, and I can sing it for you, because it is not, because 80 million people in Iran does the same. Be Sahra بنگرم صحرا تو بینم به دریا بنگرم دریا تو بینم به هر جا بنگرم کوه و در و دشت نشون از قامت رعنا تو بینم. And translation, if I look to the mountains, I see you. If I look to the sea, I see you. Wherever I look, I see you. This is I saw you.
It could be a Bosnian poem.
It is.
It is now officially a Bosnian poem.
Yesterday, the day before yesterday, I was in an airplane. Hundreds of Bosnian people. They were so happy to come to Sarajevo, and I thought, wherever I look, I see you, and all of them were the Bosnian people, the Bosnian people or Herzegovina people who escaped of the country, and they came home.
Just like you. Now, I mean, in the sense that you feel at home here. Walking through the Basčaša, walking through this old bazaar, walking into the mosque, in a way, it must remind you of the city where you were born,
Yeah.
In a religious family, with a religious father. Could you tell us a little bit about this city, the city of St. John?
You talk about bazaar of my country, and I worked here in the bazaar of Sarajevo. I don't know really very good the bazaar. I don't know the power of the bazaar of Sarajevo, but the bazaar of Iran. In bazaar of Iran, we produce flying carpets, okay, and we produce saffron,
Saffron. Yeah.
and we produce religious books, and we produce ayatollahs
In the bazaar. No.
in the bazaar.
Really?
All of them made
Really?
in the bazaar. And my question is, are you able to make ayatollahs in Sarajevo?
So, are there ayatollahs being produced here in Baschacha? Yeah, can you buy them?
It is what I say. It is not. What I say, it is not a joke. It is a reality of our country. The bazaar makes difference. The bazaar make politics. The bazaar has the power everywhere, because one day say the bazaar, we close the shops, and if you close, and one ayatollah say, close the shops. Close the shops and the country collapse. But I don't know in Sarajevo about the bazaar.
Well, explain a bit more, because I do believe in Iran, nothing changes if the bazaar doesn't want it to.
I have written it in my book, The House of the Mosque. I am the son of a rich family, not money rich, but literary rich, cultural rich family. My uncle was the boss of the bazaar, and another uncle of mine was the boss of the mosque. He was the big, important imam of the city. Those two people, I have written it in this book, those two people, those two men were the powerful men of the city, and they changed everything in the city. They made it in the city, and they made me. And you see,
They did a good job, but
they
it gets complicated here. They made you, yes. They created a young man who was who knew everything about the bazaar, about the mosque, about the power of this combination. But they also created the young man who resisted against this power.
I have written it in my another book. I am coming. I used to live in the house of the mosque. House of the mosque was a big house with about 37 rooms. And I used to live with my father and his family, and my uncle and his family, and my uncle and his family, the grandmother, the grandfather, and the birds, and the fishes, and the old trees, and the cats, you know, and the stories. The house was old, about 700 years old, and the house had produced a prime minister, a poet,
Your great-grandfather, yeah?
many ayatollahs, but good ayatollahs. And in that house, everybody said, you have to do something with your life. We have you do something with your life. And I don't know, suddenly in that house, I got two dreams in my head. My first dream, I wanted to be a beloved, great Persian writer. And my second dream, I wanted to be a president of my country. But both of them, nothing.
The first, you totally succeeded. The second one, the powers you were fighting against were too strong. You didn't have this option of becoming the king of Persia, but as I said, you did decide at a young age that you had to resist. You had to resist both the regime of the Shah in which you grew up, and after that, the regime of the new Ayatollahs.
I told you, the house of the mosque, in the house of the mosque, we had two important men. The man of the bazaar, the Ayatollah or Imam of the mosque. And both of them were against the Shah, against the Americans, and against everything from Western countries. And
which influence was growing very quickly in the 60s and 70s, yeah?
Absolutely, absolutely. And they taught us to be honest with ourselves and to don't be a servant of someone else, to don't be servant of America and no servant of the Shah. Yeah. And because of that, I was against the Shah and against America. I love America. I love American literature. I love American knowledge. I love American dreams. But I hate Trump's politics.
We'll get to Trump's politics later. Let's stay in this atmosphere of this house, of the mosque, a little bit. The house where you grew up. It starts with the three mystical words with which the Quran, the Holy Quran, opens. Can you give us these words?
Before I give answer to your question, I told you I used to live in the house of the mosque. In the house of the mosque means the house behind the mosque, and a house where the imam of the mosque was living, used to live. My father was not able to read. My grandfather has read about 700 times the Quran in his entire life. He became 99 years old. And he had read the Quran about 700 times. And he didn't read any other books, only the Quran. And I heard him every day, in dark, the noon, the evening, and when he got sleep. And Alif, Lam, Mim. Alif, Lam, Mim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alif, Lam. They have printed in my head. And I can understand, how was it possible to not to be the same believer, but a Che Guevara kind, a Castro rebel, a communist, something in that way. This is the power of the Quran, because my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, everybody was busy with, and they shoot me away.
Sorry? They
shoot me out of the power of their belief.
Yes, and then years and years later, you write the book about this house of the mosque and open it with those words that have been planted in your memory from your earliest age.
This is very important. This is very important question, but because I can translate it to Sarajevo. The regime of Iran destroyed everything of my city.
Which one? The Shah's regime?
No, the Ayatollahs. And they destroyed even if the house of the mosque. Nothing. And many of my family members got arrested or executed, or they put in the jail, and I didn't have anything for me. My house was gone, destroyed. But suddenly, I got, or the life gave me a new power, the Dutch language, the power of the Dutch language. And I took the pen, and I started to get back my house, my anchor, the mosque, and everybody they had executed, everybody that regime had executed, I got all of them back, and I put it in my book. And that is the same that I wish for Sarajevo, and I wish for Bosnia-Herzegovina. They have taken many dear but of you. There is only one way to get back, and that is literature, and that is the books, and that is the great Bosnian Sarajevo's writers to take the pen and to take back and to put in their books for the next generation, because you are not allowed to forget the pain. You are not allowed to forget your painful memories. This book is the same of a writer after the war of Sarajevo. I have written this book because the Ayatollah had killed thousands of Iranian intellectuals, of normal people. They executed my brother, they put my sister in the jail, and many comrades of mine. But the pen is more powerful than the war.
Thank you for that. I understand so well why you say you feel at home here, because you feel at home in the beauty, you feel at home in the pain, and you feel at home in the stories. And I know, as far as I can read in translation, that this city and this country produces magnificent poetry and novels, movies and music, which restore everything that has been destroyed. But as you know yourself, there is also a sense of being powerless, because your book is a magnificent reconstruction of this era, of the family, of the house, of the spirit. But it is no longer there in reality. Even stronger, you cannot go back to the same place. So how do you deal with this sense of power as a writer? Pen is stronger than the war. And at the same time, the feeling, whatever I write, it will never come back in real life.
I'm a small writer, a little writer, small writer in the Dutch language, but I'm coming from an old, ancient country with about 8,000 year history and about 3,000 year literature. We have, and maybe you know, when the Arabs came inside old Persia, they destroyed everything. And we didn't know nothing about them. And some way, somehow, the life gave us a big poet, Ferdowsi, and he wrote a book about 30,000 poems, poems, okay? And in the past 3,000 years, everybody has gone, everybody has died, but only one book. And that book is fiction, but it is more powerful than the reality. I don't need to go back home. I don't need to go home. There is nothing. house of the mosque in ruin. But I can tell you, this is no joke, this is a reality. The reality, if I go back home now, the apple tree of our house, the old apple tree of our house is sick. And our women neighbors are old, you know, no apples anymore. And the trees are destroyed, or old. But I go every night in my dream back, you know, and the apple tree, young, with red apples. And my neighbors, so young and beautiful. I don't need it to go back. I have the power of, I thank the life because of the pen that the life had put in my hands, and fiction is more powerful than the reality.
Yeah. No, this is great, and I'm happy I have the opportunity to ask this now, because I was always wondering about this, but what you give us is the strength of a culture that knows it will always survive whatever political, economical, religious crisis happen, because the culture, the books, the stories will always exist forever, whatever happens in the meantime. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how you create books like these? Because I've been rereading them now for this occasion, and I'm struck again. I don't know if there's many writers who do this, certainly not in our language, but all over the world, because it's a mixture of this autobiographical memories, it is fairy tale, it is political history telling, it is poetry, it is a mix of all this in the most fluid, natural way. How do you create these kind of books?
I believe in life. I will tell you why. My father, my own father, I have written in this book, was deaf and mute. Mm-hmm. He was not able to talk, he was not able to hear, he was not able to read, he was not able to write. But he had a dream as a young man, my father. He wanted to have a boy with two strong ears, a boy, a word maker. And he got me. This is not a joke, and I will not talk about myself. I'm talking about my father. He wanted to have this son. And now I am sitting in a beautiful house in the Netherlands. And the life has given me a new power. And the power is Dutch language. When I came inside the Netherlands, I was 33 years old. And I was not able to talk in Dutch. And I didn't know even one word Dutch. But I told you, my father was deaf and mute. But if my father came home, we talk in a sign language with each other in this way. But our son language was very small language, maybe with 300 words. We talk, and my father, because of my father, I teach myself to say the big things in a very short way. You know, by this background, I came in the Dutch language. And at the same time, I felt I am my father. I am not able to talk, and I am not able to read, and I am not able to write. But I teach myself, about 500 Dutch words. That was second power. And I started writing in Dutch with thousands of mistakes. And I correct my mistakes year after year. I want to tell you something, but I didn't say this in the Netherlands because this is very important, because you asked this question to me. When I started writing in Dutch, I was not able to write in Dutch, but I had to write in Dutch. And not only to write, I wanted to reach the top of the Dutch literature, not because of myself, but because many comrades of mine were executed in the country. Many friends of mine were died, and my house destroyed, and I got freedom, an ocean of freedom, and I had to make it. And I started writing in Dutch, and I believe in life, and the life had given me three powerful power. My father, a handicapped man, Dutch language, for me, a handicapped language, and a dream. It is because of that I am able to make these books. Not because I am an important writer. No, I am a worker. I work hard every day from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at the evening. Not because I'm an important person, no, because I have now an important voice and I have to say it. Mm-hmm. And I have to come here to tell it to you. Mm.
You have 4 powers, the 3 you mentioned, and you have the 3 women in your family, who are also a force behind the books you produce.
Yes, you are a clever man. I knew you, but you know my family, my wife, my daughters. My wife is a powerful woman because hundreds of times I thought she will put me out of the door. It's enough. Go. But she doesn't. And she didn't. This is a sign of power. Okay. And I have to say you something else. You said about 4 power. Mm. There are 5 powers. Mm. The most important power I didn't know, but I know it 2-3 years ago. The power of immigration. I didn't know, but I know it. When I escaped out my country, I knew why I escaped of my country, but I didn't know what I could get instead. I didn't know. But now I know it. I escaped of my country to meet you, and it is a wonderful, magic meeting, not only because of you, but because of these meetings, because of Dutch people, German people, and travel, and writing, and telling, you changed me. You changed a new writer. And I am thankful because of that immigration.
Well, I have to say, I'm pretty thankful that you chose our country to stay and write in. Many people here have experience with immigration, obviously, Many people had to leave during the war or left after. Some returned, some didn't. So there's many of these stories here in this room, in this city. And I just had to think about the writers. Speaking about writers, you know the writer Alexander Hammond from here,
Yeah.
who moved to the US and started writing in American. Brilliant writer. But that was a different story because he had grown up with the fascination for the American, let's say, counterculture, popular culture. You arrived in our country, and I'll just tell you, I mean, it is a miraculous story. You arrived, you learned 500 words. You wrote your first short novel. It was published, I think, 3 years after you arrived in our country. It immediately was awarded with the prize for the best first novel in the country, in the Dutch language, which is a small miracle in itself. And then some 10, 15 years later, you published The House of the Mosque, which was then elected by the Dutch readers the second best novel in Dutch ever. That is, I mean, it's a small language, but still.
They don't know about my magic. That is the magic of immigration. I will tell you why. When I escaped out my country, I wanted to go to America. That was my dream, to be a big Persian American writer.
Surprises me because you were, as you just told us, in the 60s, 70s, you opposed everything.
Yeah, that is the life, you know, and when the life make a joke with me. Suddenly, I was standing in the cold, in the wind, and in the rain. We're in Amsterdam, you know. And I was about 33 years old, you know. And I said, oh my God, what can I do in this country? And the language so complicated and difficult, and it is almost Chinese in Europe, everybody says. And I didn't know, but I was very lucky that I had reached the Netherlands, because nobody before me has written, no foreigner before me has written in Dutch language. I was one of the first foreigners who started writing in Dutch. Okay, because and I was lucky that I couldn't go to America, because everybody can go to America, and everybody can write in Americans, and everybody can speak Americans, but in Dutch, speak Dutch. It is power, you know, write in Dutch. It is the showing of your power. And nobody Dutch language, they have written only by themselves, you know. And suddenly came KADER ABDOLAH, you know. And I come from an old language, 8,000-year language, you know, and 3,000-year literature. But Dutch literature, beautiful, but young, very young. And I put them, the mosques in the Dutch literature. And I put there the beautiful Persian women covered, you know. And I put the Persian many things, you know. And my first book, he mentioned, and everybody said, it is wonderful. Not because I was, they said it is wonderful because of the language. I was not able to write in Dutch, but they thought it is wonderful language. It was not wonderful language. That was the power of immigration.
And you're laughing, but it's all true. We simply didn't have these stories, these images, this history. I mean, we didn't have anything that was based on 1,000 years history in our country. You arrived as you describe in my father's notebook, you arrived in Flevoland, which is in the center of the city, used to be the sea, and then about 50 years ago we turned it into land on this flat former sea where everything is new, every building, every tree, every road is new. There you arrive with your 8,000-year culture. We never had that.
I've had to be careful. He's a Dutchman. I will give you a sample, and it makes it clear why Dutch readers read my books and why everybody say, "Oh, this is nice." I have put the culture beside each other. For example, about the love and sex. In Dutch literature, I don't talk about Dutch society. In Dutch literature, okay, you see a woman, okay, hello, okay, I love you too, okay, let it do. And they do it directly, and they go to bed and finished, But in the Persian literature, it is impossible. It is impossible to meet a girl, okay? This is the same as the biggest mountain of my country. You have to be able to reach the top, and you have to say poetry, you have to say how beautiful she is, you have to say many stories, you have to say many things, and if you get her in your bed, you have to do through the tradition. And my grandfather taught me, you cannot directly starting with love. You can start from her foot and say, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And then many beautiful surahs of the Quran till you reach the rest. And I have written in my books, And this is the true. This is immigration.
I don't know why you dear people are laughing. It's all true. It's all true. I wanna go back, Kader, to something that is central to these two books and also in a few of these other books. And this is a very serious question.
I love your question.
I know. This house and the mosque, where your family had been living, working for centuries and centuries, it protected the citizens of your town from the enemies of the faith, of the Islam. But then, after 79, after Ayatollah Khomeini, a strange thing happened, because this place of faith, this place that people came to every day to pray and to connect with the higher being. Then suddenly this was taken over. This was attacked by the Ayatollahs who had their own version of the faith. This must have been such a disturbing, confusing, difficult time when you have believers who are fighting each other.
You are talking about the Quran, if I understand it, because the Quran is the base of the power of the Ayatollahs and the hardliners or fanatics and regime of Iran. But I have to say you something about literature. I believe a human being has written a couple of most beautiful books ever. And that is the Torah, the Bible, the Quran, Odysseys, Moby Dick, and the Old Man and the Sea, and two, three more books. And they are the most important fiction that human being writers have written, of told, of made for us. You know, the Quran. We have three books, three religious books: the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran. The Quran is the most beautiful of all of them because of the fiction that Muhammad has used in his book. My father, my grandfather, my grandmother, everybody in my family washed her hands before they touched the book, you know. And I told you my grandfather had read about 700 times, but I didn't understand why. But later, many later, as a writer, I read the book. It is fiction. It is wonderful, ever fiction. And the people, you have two kinds of people. You can read it and to get a fanatic, Muslim, dangerous leader, and you can read it and to become the most important great Persian writers, Hafiz, Sadi, Maulana, and hundreds other, and a small writer as KADER ABDOLAH, because I see myself as a student of the school of the Quran because of the big imagination of the Quran. But the Ayatollahs has written in a way that they need it. That is the human being. Some people needs to read by this way, other people needs to read by this way, and we can't change it. And we can't change it. It is a human being.
And these two kind of persons clashed in places like the mosque of your family.
That is, I have written about those people. Look, in Iran, there are no Ayatollahs. Ayatollah Khamenei, Ayatollah Rouhani, Ayatollah everybody, and they are many bad guys. They have killed many people. But don't forget, they are our men. They are our people. They are not coming from America or of the Netherlands. They are our brothers. They are our neighbors. They are ourselves. And they are very good people. They are very honest people, but they are dangerous. It is a human being. All of the people that now are torturers, the other people, they are my neighbors. Good people. But now suddenly, I don't know why, because of that book.
I can imagine this resonates here.
Is the same?
But maybe some people will be able to comment on that in a minute. Let me ask you I want to ask you one or two more things, and then we'll open up to the audience. This period of the clash between different readings of the Quran, you at that time, you chose the resistance. You joined a radical leftist underground movement that was crushed very violently, very viciously. It forced you to leave the country. I've always wondered, and I'm curious, what is the legacy of this? You weren't a full-blooded communist, but something very close to that, I think. And what is the legacy in your mind, in your thinking, in your worldview, in your attitude of those ideas of that time?
Experience. I needed to leave that time, if I was, I told you I came from a religious family, very religious, cultural, important family of the city, and I became suddenly a very important member of an underground leftist party.
You were the editor of the paper, yeah?
I was the editor, and always with my pen, and sometimes with the gun, to protect myself. But I needed to do that. At that time, Che Guevara was so big.
Che Guevara.
Castro was present. Lenin was my hero. They were good. They were big, and they are good. But the time has changed. Everything has changed everything, and now we are not allowed to stop more than that time by Lenin, by Che Guevara, by Castro. We have to move, and I'm happy. I'm really happy that I have experienced, I have seen all of that time. I read, and you know better than me, I read all of Soviet Union novels, books, everything, the Mecca, and the past years I have traveled as a writer in all of the old communist country, and I said, my God, but it was the soul of the time, the soul of my time. You have to live your time. If I didn't live that time, I was not able to write these books. If I didn't live that time, I was not so lucky to be this evening here to meet these guys.
Okay, this is so. Because of that, it's one. You're talking about these great movements of the 20th century, where you were active part of. It's one of the ironies of the 20th century that this great writer ends up in a very tiny language. You know, our language is spoken by what, 25 million people if we count Belgium, where people speak and read same language basically. So this great writer in this great tradition ends up in this tiny language. It's one of the ironies of the 20th century. So what does the 21st century hold for KADER ABDOLAH?
This is, your question pushed me about 300 years back. Now I see, that I'm a man, my age about 300 years. I am 300 years old because you asked why you have changed your way and you are here. And I mentioned when I was a boy of 6 or 7, we didn't have any light. The light hasn't reached at that time my city.
Electricity.
We didn't have. We had the lights, lantern, I can say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the gas lanterns, oil lanterns.
Okay, and after that, we didn't have any radio. Oh, radio, you know. And then we didn't have any television. Oh, television. And then cinema. And then gramophone. And then after that, fly with airplanes first time. And then suddenly computer. I wrote just with hand, and then after that with the type machine, and then computer. Oh, wonderful! And then a printer, and then Google, okay, online, internet, and then, oh my God, what's happening now? All of those things has changed me. And they are changing us.
So what's next for you?
What's next for you? I dream one day, some way, somehow to make a walk on Mars. With my hands behind my back and thinking about home and about what's happened till that time. It's possible. What you think about is possible.
What you think about is possible.
It's possible.
This is what you learned from your father and your uncles when you were this big. This is what you're telling us now, today, here at Bookstan, Sarajevo. Who would like to ask a question to KADER ABDOLAH? Go ahead. A fellow writer.
Thank you, because you are here with us. Okay, I have read just 2 of your books. One is
The
this
honor,
one.
the honor as
One is this one that you were talking about, and the other that I like much more is the book. I'll try to translate. I don't know the original name of that book. In fact, that book original name is in Dutch. So, Voyage of Empty
Bottles.
Bottles.
Yes, yes.
So,
the journey of empty bottles.
yes, when I read it, it's one of the novels that I, in the last 10 years, maybe I said to Damir that it's the best novel for me that they published in maybe the last 10 years. Okay, that's my own my experience. So, but my question, when I have read it for 2 or 3 times, maybe more, my experience was that you know, it's very hard in English. Možda neko zna bolje engleski od mene. Okay. So I'm asking if somebody know English better than me. So moje pitanje je, moje doživljaj u stvari da je to potpuno vaše osobno iskustvo, taj ne sukob između 2 civilizacije, već susret između 2 civilizacije, vrlo nježan susret između 2 civilizacije. Hoćeš? Okay, so I'll try directly in English. My personal experience about the book Voyage of the Empty Bottles is that it's your own experience, that you were very honest, and you know, it's not a clash of 2 civilizations. No, for me, it was a very gentle meeting of that 2 civilizations for me, and it was wonderful. Because it is the you understand me, of course. And my question is, am I right?
You are a writer, and I understand you 100%.
I know.
It is an honor. It's an honor to be read by you.
Thanks.
And to be written by read by you, and you are right. One thing you mentioned is very important.
Yes.
You say you are yourself in your book. That is not clash of civilization.
No, it's not clash.
You talk about your own experience. In all of my books, I'm myself.
Of course.
And that makes different. That's myself. And the life has taught me, be yourself, and then you are powerful.
Yes, if you are honest, then you are powerful, of course. Thank you. Thank you. That was my question.
Thank you, great. Anybody else?
Okay, same from the side.
Right in the middle and here?
this side.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, one question. Actually, you said you are yourself. You are living now in Western Europe. You said when you came there it was land of freedom, especially last 5-10 years. It is becoming less and less land of freedom. So, okay, it's not oppressive maybe as in Iran, but now come to the present time. When you said you are going to walk on the Mars, probably you will. Does it mean that you will have to go to the Mars maybe because it's becoming more and more openly fascistic, because power of immigration became more than 3%, so we are becoming the problem in the Western Europe. So how it's also influencing your book today? Because in many of the books, I also read some of them, let's say 60s, 70s, but we are coming today. So how it is influencing of you in writing of your book? And second question that I can connect, there is never in history of the time so many literate people, but because of internet and everything that you mentioned, people are reading less and less. So how much is really power of the book? Okay, maybe in 3,000 years we will make the new circle. So that's a two short question.
Good questions.
Okay, the radicalization of Dutch.
Well, I mean, yeah. In Europe, Western Europe, the situation is totally different than when you arrived. It's true.
Told you, because of immigration in the past, I was one of the first immigrants people, not in Europe but in the Netherlands. In the past 20 years, has come about 30 million immigrants beside the country, beside the different countries, beside Europe. In every in these 20 years, writers, journalists, everybody has written about millions articles, essays about those people and about changing in the society. But they didn't write one thing. They are not able to say it and to write about it. And I will tell it to you. And this is the next. Europe has become old. Europe needs KADER ABDOLAH. And they cannot stop me. It is news. It is something. This is not news, but I say it to you as something new. There are about 30 million have come inside, and there are millions on their way. They can stop them in Turkey or in Libya, but they are not able to stop the big, important waves of immigration. They are coming to Europe. I have studied physics. You know, if here is water, and if here is the ground, the water comes to the ground, and you can't stop them. You can't stop the rain. It comes, and it takes about maybe 30 years more, or 50 years more, and it is very important for Europe. And Europe will become more powerful, healthier than ever. You can't be agree with me, but I am somebody who lives this change and used to live this change. I have been everywhere in Europe behind my books, from Sweden to Canada, and to South Africa, to Bosnia, Herzegovina. That is magic waves, and will give power, beauty, and change to Europe. But now we can't see it. Now we have problems. But we can't have forever problems. After 50 years, after 100 years, we will have a more strong society than now we have. The Netherlands now is more powerful than 30 years ago when I came to the Netherlands. Because suddenly Dutch people, they are nice, nice. I will use the word positive, naive, but now they are powerful and they right against me. And now we produce many righties, politicians, and they say the most bad things about the immigration. It is good that they talk. The Dutch society is one of the most important, safe society for the immigration, for the immigrants. We are there powerful. In every newspaper, we are present. We are Dutch people. We are not abroad. My children are Dutch. My daughter is working in KLM. She's the boss. She's Dutch. She's more Dutch than this man. Because he's living after 30 years. He's living Dutch society. Go. And my daughter with her children get the power. This is Dutch. I am Dutch. I am going. But my children and Dutch children, and they are very mixed marriage. Dutch society, I love the Netherlands. They must open. This is not because they are crazy and rightists and fanatics. No. It is the democracy of Dutch society. They talk, I talk. They write, I write. They say, go of my country. They say, sit down. This is the power of the country. And I am honored to write in that language.
Final question, right there in the middle. The mic is coming anyway.
Well, you talked about 5 powers behind your writing, and you talked about first, second, third, then skipped the fourth, and then talked about the fifth. So I would just like to know more about the power of women that we didn't talk about, and specifically writing. Do they play any role in your writing and in your life?
The power of the women in Iran of the Ayatollahs, and even in the Iran of the Shah, the women didn't have they don't have the equal rights, you know. But home, they are powerful. They are powerful. My uncle and my uncle Imam, my uncle in the bazaar, they were powerful men outside the door. But if they came inside, my grandmother, sit down, and they have to sit down. They have to do what the grandmother said. And the grandmother and my mother and my wife and my daughters, they are the most powerful women in my life, you know. And they have made their sons. There's a problem. There's a problem with Iranian women. It's the same as Bosnia Herzegovina women. They love more their sons than their daughters. And not more love, they give more power, and they are powerful. One of the power, the second power in my home, very shortly, is my youngest daughter. Somebody asked her, do you want to be a writer ever? And she said, never. We have one is enough. Okay.
It's an excellent question. It is so clear that there's much, much more to say about this. The books, as you might know, of course, feature a great number of powerful women, including not just within the walls of the house, but also political resistance figures, etc.
You told 1 minute.
Sure.
You told about the women, and I have to talk about my mother. my mother was married with my mother was married with a deaf mute man. She was 16 or 17, and my father, and they couldn't even talk with each other. Okay. And my mother, and they got 7 children, all of them academics. Okay, it is okay. And my mother now is getting dement. Huh? Is becoming
Dementia.
dementia,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and she forgets. She's a very powerful woman, and she forgets everything. And I have. She's living in Iran, and I talk with her. I have both the same telephone with her, and I phoned her every day, and I talk with her online, and every time she said, "Where are you?" The same question. I said, "I'm in Amsterdam." Oh, and then after 1 minute, "Where are you?" "No, I'm in Amsterdam." "Okay, mom." And okay, and then and every day she goes to park, and she talks with the other ladies, old ladies. They forgot everything too, you know. They forgot their memories too. And they sit to each other and they talk with each other, okay? And what are talking about? They talk about children, okay? Nothing more, okay? And the next day about children, because they forgot what they have said yesterday. And they said again, okay? But my mother is the only one, he has every time, every day, something new to say. And it is because of me, you know? Every time that I travel, and I go somewhere, I phone her, and I say, "Mom," and my mom asks, "Where are you?" "In Sarajevo." "What are you doing?" "I have a lecture." "And for whom?" And I say, for my readers, or next readers, okay? And my second question of my mother is, "Show them." And I will make a couple of photos for my mother, you know. And I
Wave to KADER ABDOLAH's mother.
I send it to her, and tomorrow she has something news to the another powerful women of my country. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, KADER ABDOLAH, thank you so much.